If you're having any tech, can you go to the next slide? If you're having any technical difficulties and you can't use the chat or unmute, you can email communications@rtachicago.org. We will be checking that email through the meeting with any technical difficulties that you might have. We'll begin in just a few minutes. All right, I'm going to give just a minute or two for more folks to join. Just a reminder to stay muted, and we'll begin in just a minute. Okay, we will go ahead and get started. So just a reminder, if you're just joining, this is the public hearing for the 2026 Regional Budget and Capital Program hosted by the Regional Transportation Authority. We ask all participants to stay muted until called upon to provide comments. We will begin the public comment section of this meeting after we're done with some upfront presentations. And I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to RTA Executive Director Leanne Redden to open the meeting.
Good afternoon / kind of evening, everybody. As Tina said, my name's Leanne Redden. I'm the Executive Director of the Regional Transportation Authority. I want to thank everyone for joining us. We do have some guidelines for this hearing this afternoon, evening. As we mentioned, all participants need to remain on mute until it's their turn to speak. And if for any reason you experience any technical difficulties, first use the chat box if you can. If that's not working for you, feel free to email communications@rtachicago.org. We'll be monitoring that email as well and can provide you assistance as needed. Everything discussed in this meeting is going to be recorded and considered formal public comment. So before we jump into the actual presentation, I'd like to acknowledge some RTA board members who have joined us this evening. And I am going to let them one by one unmute themselves and just introduce themselves by name and let the audience know what region that you represent for the RTA.
Good evening. This is Chris Groman. I represent Kane County on the RTA board.
Good evening. I'm J.D. Ross. I represent Will County.
Okay, I'm not sure if others have joined as yet. That might be filtering in, so I can keep going with the presentation so we can keep this moving. So if we want to move to the next slide, please. As noted, I'm the Executive Director of the Regional Transportation Authority, and thanks everyone for joining us. To begin, I'll start off by saying a new era has really begun for transit in the Chicago metro region. And for the first time in years, the Regional Transportation Authority isn't preparing for a looming crisis, but instead is optimistic about the opportunities ahead. The Illinois General Assembly on October 31st approved Senate Bill 2111, a significant transit funding and reform package that will bring about $1.2 billion in new annual operating funding to the system. That marks a historic investment that's going to protect essential services of today and really lay the foundation for transit of tomorrow. This milestone fulfills the central goal of Transit is the Answer, which has been the region's strategic plan that we adopted a couple of years back, which called for substantial and sustainable operating funding to protect and improve transit service. So next slide, please. The RTA called a special board meeting on November 6 after the bill's passage in Springfield to update the public funding amounts available to the service boards so that they would be able to approve their 2026 budgets with stability and opportunities for continued improvements. So for riders, what does that mean? That means no service cuts, no layoffs, no fare increases on February 1 as previously proposed, and new funds are going to mean opportunities to advance further improvements on service quality and user experience later in the year as the new funding becomes available. So next slide. In October this year, the average weekday ridership across the 6-county region exceeded 1.3 million. Building on several years of ridership growth, the new funding will allow CTA, Metro, and PACE to increase hiring and improve employee and rider experience, increase frequency, and create a pathway for additional improvements to public safety and reliability that riders have been asking for over the past several years. So next slide. With the passage of SB 2111, the RTA region can expect an estimated $1.2 billion annually in new operating funding from a combination of sales tax on motor fuel and an increase in the region-wide RTA sales tax. So to sort of break that down a little bit, 5% of the 6.25% sales tax on motor fuel will be dedicated to transit operations throughout the state, with 85% going to our 6-county region and 15% going to the rest of the state. This is going to generate an estimated $731 million for the RTA region starting July 1, 2026. Additionally, a 0.25% increase in the region-wide RTA sales tax is expected to generate an estimated $478 million annually for the transit system. The RTA board is going to be required to approve this increase within 60 days of the bill's effective date, which is June 1st, 2026. The sales tax, though, will not be matched by the state from the Public Transportation Fund. Previously, all legislated sales tax, the legislated sales tax that had been previously already that exists is going to continue to be receive its Public Transportation Fund match. And the collar counties will also continue to retain their 0.25% of the 1% collected in their respective counties. As a note, no new funding from SB 2111 will arrive until after the third or even the fourth quarters of 2026. Our agencies are going to be operating on existing funding and reserves until then. So next slide, please. As I mentioned, following the passage of the bill, the RTA board held a special meeting to update funding amounts for 2026 based on projected new revenues shown on this slide. These changes mean that each service board's budgets will not have gaps. They will not need to cut service or increase fares, as you may have otherwise heard in previously proposed from us as part of the original budget call. Looking at funding over the next 3 years. In 2026, our existing operating funding stands at $2.568 billion. With the new 0.25% RTA sales tax and the reallocated state sales tax on motor fuel, we will add a projected $199 million and 366 million, I should say, respectively, in new funding for 2026. By 27 and 28, these sources are expected to contribute over 1.25 billion annually, bringing our total spending, our total public funding, I should say, to nearly 4 billion by 2028. This, I can't underscore this more. This is going to be transformational for our region's transit network. So next slide. For 2026, our board has approved the following changes to public funding by each agency, providing that's fundamentally going to provide stability to the transit services. CTA's funding was increased by 141.9 million, Metra's by 27.9 million, and Pace's by 18.9 million. The board also allocated 56.7 million in additional funding for the rideshare access and the taxi access programs, commonly known as RAP and TAP. That's really to reflect the commitment, our commitment to ADA paratransit riders. In 2026, the RTA board retains full discretion per Senate Bill 2111 to allocate new funding, most of which is going to arrive, as I noted, later in the year. We're proposing, we are projecting that 319 million in regional funds beyond what is needed to close the fiscal gap will arrive at the latter part of 2026. The RTA's agency budget has not been adjusted from our previously adopted funding marks and funding allocations. And just to highlight that no new funding has been allocated to the RTA as an agency at this point. In other words, we're ensuring that the new monies are going directly to the three operators to focus on service provision and service operations. The total increase in operating funding for 2026 is 564.7 million, which ensures all three service boards have the resources they need to maintain and enhance services. So next slide. One of the most significant reforms in SB 2111 is lowering the recovery ratio from 50% to 25% for 2026. When I say recovery ratio, I'm talking about the fare box recovery ratio, how much revenue we generate from actual fares collected in the system. So it's lowered to 2026 through 2029, for 25% from 2026 through 29, to clarify, for the mainline service, and it's set at 5% for ADA paratransit. The recovery ratio measures how much the system's operating expenses are covered by fares and must be reported to the state upon budget adoption. While these penalties, while the penalty for not meeting that requirement is waived for 2026, it remains in place for future years. And the statute also removes most previous adjustments, except for security expenses and expenses for innovation, coordination, and enhancement projects. So this change makes the recovery ratio more achievable for our three operators and for the region as a whole. It also aligns our financial requirements with the realities of the current ridership and revenue trends. So moving to the next slide. While some of the changes to transit because of SB 2111 will take a few years to be realized, there are several areas and items that we will start to see both sort of short and midterm initiatives that are really going to get going. And just to highlight a few of those, you will be seeing as riders of the system acceleration of the operator hiring and training that will allow the three operators to increase frequency of service and reduce service gaps. The Access Pilot Program, which allows SNAP recipients in the six-county region to ride at a reduced fare that is currently only available to Metro riders. We plan to expand that to include CTA and Metro riders as well across the entire region. We're also looking to expand access to transit projects that are going to provide funding that will improve sidewalks, crossings, shelters, lighting, and other accessibility treatments in and around station areas across the entire region. We'll also work to begin coordinated service planning to make it easier to transfer between CTA, Metra, and PACE. We'll also begin planning for increased public safety programs included in the bill, such as setting up a region-wide transit ambassador program. In the longer term, the bill recognizes that the region's transit system under the Northern Illinois Transit Authority, or NITA as it's being called, NITA will build on the current responsibilities of the RTA with additional authority for setting fares, conducting service and capital planning work, and with a new board structure for NITA and the service boards. So moving on to the next slide. Just to give you a bit more of an overview of the new board structure and the transition process outlined in the new legislation. The terms of the current RTA board members will expire on September 1st, 2026. Members can be reappointed under the new structure, and the NITA board members need to be reappointed within 120 days of the bill's effective date of June 1st, 2026. The bill adds 4 directors to the regional entity, bringing the new NITA board to 20 members. And to break that down for you, there's 5 members appointed by the governor with the advice and consent of the Illinois Senate, 5 members appointed by the mayor of Chicago with advice and consent of the city council, 5 members appointed by Cook County president with advice and consent of the Cook County Board of Commissioners, and then 5 members, 1 each from each of the collar counties with advice and consent of their respective boards. The NITA board chair is selected by a simple majority from amongst those directors. And final point on that, under the new structure, 17 members of the NITA board will also do double duty and serve on the boards of either CTA, Metra, or PACE. So next slide. There's a lot to happen as part of this bill, and just to give you kind of a highlight of some of the significant milestones outlined in the new legislation. June 1st actually marks the effective date of SB 2111, where the RTA effectively becomes NITA. Summer 2026, as I noted earlier, the RTA Board of Directors must vote to approve the 0.25% increase in the RTA sales tax by a simple majority within 60 days of June 1st. By September 1, 2026, the Illinois Department of Transportation must contract with a third party to assist and support with a transition plan for NITA as soon as possible after the June 1st effective date. October 1, 2026, the transition working group needs to be established, comprising of 15 members, including representatives from NITA, the service boards, and labor. Then in 2027, we'll see deadlines for NITA's first service plan with the goal of funding allocations based on service standards in the coming year. 2028, we will see the expansion of fare programs and implementation of fare capping with a completely unified fare system required by 2030. And you can find a full summary of SB 2111 and all the more details and deadlines and requirements, and all of that is available on the RTA's website as of now. So moving on to the operating funding. For 2026, this chart shows the breakdown in operations funding that'll be coming to the region, totaling $4.7 billion. You'll see these estimates for the new funding sources included here, but we'll continue to update those numbers as the new funding is actually realized. So next slide. Looking at the budgeted expenses side of things by service board, and the expenses total 4.352 billion, with roughly 51% of that attributable to the CTA, 27% going to Metra, 8.6% to PACE, and 8.3% to ADA Paratransit, 3.5% to debt service for the region supporting bond funding for capital, and just 1.1% of the regional budget is for a combination of the RTA agency and the broader regional programs that are supported. That concludes the summary of the operating budget for 2026. And now I'm going to turn it over to Brian Lowenberg from our capital team to discuss the capital program with you. Thanks.
Thanks, Leanne. I'm Brian Lowenberg, Manager of Capital Programs here at RTA. We'll have a quick look at the 26 to 2030 capital program. Next slide, please. The 26 to 2030 capital program contains $9.3 billion in funding for CTA, Metra, and PACE projects. 57% of that funding comes from federal sources, which include both formula and discretionary funds. 17% comes from CTA bonds to fund the Red Line extension. 15% comes from state funds that include PAYGO from the motor fuel tax. 10% comes from the City of Chicago TIF District, and 1% comes from Service Board and RTA sources. Next slide, please. The funding split by Service Board is $6.76 billion for CTA, or 73% of the program, including almost $4 billion for the Red Line extension. $2.12 billion for Metra, or 23% of the program, which includes $400 million for new rail cars. $367 million for PACE, or 4% of the program, which includes $142 million for electric buses, and $19 million, or 0.2%, which is being held by RTA based on performance-based programming metrics for the 2030 programming year, with funding to be distributed at a later date. Next slide, please. RTA evaluates all capital projects included in the proposed program based on 12 regionally important themes that were included in Transit is the Answer, RTA's strategic plan, and are listed here on the slide. These themes include improving access to key destinations, accessibility, equity, and impact on safety and security, just to name a few. Each theme is evaluated using either one or two metrics, totaling 15 criteria. Next slide, please. All of the project evaluations are available for review in the budget book appendix available on the RTA website at rtachicago.org, as well as RTAM's, or the Regional Transportation Authority Mapping and Statistics website, which can be found online at rtams.org. On the slide, you'll see a sample page of the evaluations that appear in the budget book. Projects are sorted by priority project with the total need and funding amounts shown. Next slide, please. This year, we are looking at key goals met by each project. These goals are state of good repair, transition to zero emissions, all stations accessibility, and expansions and upgrades. Each project is assigned one or two goals. For example, a project such as purchase electric buses would meet the goals of both transition to zero emissions and state of good repair. You can see that expansions and upgrades and state of good repair make up some of the largest investments. Let's take a look at a few of the key projects by each goal. Next slide, please. Let's first look at some key expansion and upgrade projects in the program. $4.08 billion of the program's projects are for expansions and upgrades. For CTA, the main projects include Red Line extension, funded with $3.8 billion, and bus turnaround upgrades, funding with $57 million. For Metra, projects include the 78th Street entrance at Auburn Park Station, funded with $35 million, and the Harvey Transportation Center, funded with $19 million. And finally, for PACE, projects include the River Division Expansion and Electrification Project, funded with $36 million, and the Pulse Cermak 22nd Street line funded with $33 million. Next slide, please. Another regional emphasis with significant funding in the program is the continued effort to make all stations accessible. CTA's program focuses on making stations fully vertically accessible. Funding includes improvements for Oak Park and Ridgeland on the Green Line, Cicero and Austin on the Blue Line, and Clybourne on the Red Line. $245 million is included in the program. Metro's accessibility enhancements include improvements at many stations system-wide with a combined investment of $214 million. Next slide, please. The region continues to move forward on projects to transition to zero emissions. In the 26 through 30 capital program, there are major investments in several projects. CTA has programmed $362 million for the purchase of articulated electric buses and charging equipment, as well as $133 million to electrify the 103rd Street garage. Metro is funding new technologies, including zero-emission train sets at $184 million, as well as battery-powered locomotives with $29 million. The first zero-emission train set is due to be delivered in 2026. PACE is proceeding with electrification of their services. There's a planned investment of $70 million for bus garage electrifications, and in addition, PACE has programmed $142 million to purchase electric buses. Next slide, please. Lastly, maintaining what we have is of paramount importance. Collectively, the service boards are spending nearly $3.5 billion on state of good repair projects, with a big focus on maintaining and replacing revenue vehicles. CTA is making a big investment in vehicles by programming $227 million to maintain existing fleet and $408 million to purchase new rail cars, in addition to the $362 million that we mentioned for purchasing new buses. Metra is funding their new bi-level rail cars with $491 million, which are expected to begin delivery in late 2026 or early 2027. In addition, their bridge program, which aims to replace at least 5 bridges a year, is funded with $64 million. PACE is working to maintain their state of good repair by spending $204 million on new buses and $35 million on paratransit vehicles. That wraps up our capital program summary. I'll turn it back over to Tina Fassett-Smith to talk about the next steps and begin the public comment portion of the hearing.
Thanks, Brian. Later this month, our board of directors will consider this budget for adoption, and it will go into effect in the new calendar year. This budget public hearing is the end of what is a months-long process for the service boards and the RTA. And we have been in all 6 counties that make up our service area to present this budget information. And tonight we are looking forward to hearing from you. Before we move to public comment, a couple of our board members and the chair of our board have joined the meeting, and I want to give them the opportunity to unmute and introduce themselves. I'll get to the chairman last, but I believe Director Sagar, if you want to unmute, just say hi, what region you represent.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. This is Dr. Brian Sagar, and I represent McHenry County, one of the 5 collar counties. Thank you.
Thank you. I believe Director Montero, if you can unmute and introduce yourself and what region you represent. If you are talking, we cannot hear you. But either way, I will just note Director Montero, who represents the city of Chicago, has joined us as well. And finally, Chairman, if you'd like to introduce yourself, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks, Tina. And thanks to everybody who is listening here. I want to thank the directors who joined me. I'm Kirk Dillard. I have the great honor of being the chairman of the Regional Transportation Authority. It's been a very difficult couple of years, but we thankfully have received the funding that we've so long waited for from Springfield, and I am so looking forward to 2026, the NETA board, and more frequency of rides, safer system, and all of the other improvements, including cleanliness, that will eventually come. But I do want to point out that the revenues from the package that was passed in Springfield of funding reforms does not instantly start. It's going to be a while, and if there's going to be the sales tax changes that we anticipate, those funds really won't get to us probably until next November. So it's not like throwing on a light switch, but better days are ahead. It's been a great year, and I want to thank all of the advocates who are out there and members of the public. I've seen a couple of things go up on the chat here, and your comments are so useful to us. When you do comment to us, we take it back to the service boards if it's not something that the RTA itself can handle. But I just want to thank everybody for tuning in tonight. I want to thank the RTA staff and the service board staff for their great perseverance over the last couple of years. Certainly want to thank Governor Pritzker, and I want to thank the legislators in Springfield who made transit a priority. And it's not a cliche. Where transit goes, the economy and communities grow. And we finally, hopefully, in my lifetime, and I've been a lifelong rider of the CTA and Metro, we will finally have the sustained funding that we've not had over the last 30 or plus years in Chicagoland. And now it's there. And as Brian Lowenberg said a little while ago, our capital plan also is well funded thanks to the legislature and the governor. There's still a multi. We're talking 20 to 30 billion dollar state of good repair need, but we're in much better shape infrastructure wise, and certainly funding operations wise than we've probably ever been in my lifetime. So just want to thank everybody and thank you for joining in. And please never hesitate to reach out to us with your comments and suggestions. Thank you, Tina.
Thank you, Chairman. All right, next slide, please. So we are going to begin public comment. If you want to make a comment, please put your name in the chat and we will call on you to unmute and speak. If you can't or you prefer not to put your name in the chat, you can just wait and raise your hand and we'll call on you in order and you can unmute then and speak. And then if I don't see any call in lines, but if we do have any, we'll move to the last. As another reminder, the hearing remains open until 6 p.m. So we will be here for latecomers, or if you just something occurs to you in a little bit. So I don't see any names in the chat. I know that there were some comments in the chat earlier. If either of those folks, Steve or Dennis, want to unmute and talk about their comments, otherwise they will be part of the record. We'll save the chat, but I don't see any folks in the chat right now. And so, Garland, please unmute and make your comment. Nice to see you.
Happy holidays to you, everyone, including to you, Chairman Dillard. It's Garland Armstrong, formerly of Elmwood Park and Des Plaines, now living in Des Moines. I just want to, especially you, Chairman Dillard, I want to give kudos to you for you going down there telling those lawmakers what they have never experienced of riding public transit, because they need to see it firsthand up close. And I bet you was the hawk to make sure to tell them that they better take the first time to ride public transit. And they they never experienced it, but I think now's the time for them to see what it's all about. But I want to give kudos to you. You're a rock star, one of a kind, immortal, incomparable, and irresistible. So I just want to say kudos to you. And since you probably heard, Chairman Dill, about my mother's passing in August of this year, I'll be back in the Chicagoland area for her memorial. And I hope I could be at the RTA as long as there won't be any conflicts if you and Metro have the same board meeting on the same third Thursday or not, because it's going to be so bitter emotional that I'll be back there for my mother's memorial. And she passed away 4 months ago of cerebral hemorrhage in the back of her head, bleeding. So now that I don't have any parents anymore, it's all up to me, but I'm glad that RTA is still thinking about me. And just want y'all know I'm still hanging in there until I come in April of next year after Easter before the end of April. So I'll keep you update what date I'm leaving here from Des Moines, coming back there, and where we're going to be guests at. So either in a hotel or not. So I'll keep y'all posted because it's going to be so emotional coming back to the Chicagoland area. So just want y'all to know what is what. So I'll
Th-
still be thinking about y'all. If anybody have any comments or questions from the directors or you, I'm glad to hear from y'all while I'm here.
Thank you, Garland. I'm so sorry about your loss. I appreciate the shout out, but it wasn't me. It was hundreds of other advocates who did yeoman's heavy lifting in Springfield. But we're always glad to have you back at the RTA, and the RTA will still be around in the spring. And hopefully, Garland, you'll continue your advocacy with the new board, which will go into effect around next Labor Day. But you have a wonderful holiday, and there's been no better champion or spokesman for mass transit than you, my friend. So thank you. God bless
That's
you.
right. And just want you to know the countdown to my wife's birthday is coming up fast on New Year's Day. So just want y'all to know she says hello to y'all, and tell it to all the board directors, and tell them that I'll see them again in April. And you make sure that I know you probably want us to come, but I hope there won't be a conflict with two board meetings on the same date in the morning. So if y'all can work out something, like see if Metro has the same date with you. So that's going to be a conflict. So how y'all can work it out. So if you want me to be there in person and want to give me a hug and see how am I holding up.
Will
Thanks so
do.
much for the comment, Garland.
Thanks, Garland. Take care, my friend.
All right, rock on, RTA.
All right, I see a few questions in the chat, but I just want to make clear if you would like to speak, um, uh, and you've put a comment in the chat, you can go ahead and unmute, and I'm just going to call the people who have made a comment. Steve DeRose, if you'd like to make a comment, go ahead and unmute and make a comment. Okay, I'll move on to Dennis Shuit. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. If you'd like to make a comment, go ahead and unmute and make a comment.
Okay. Yeah, you're one of the few that pronounces my name right.
Oh, glad to hear it.
My comment, I've been a lifelong public transportation user, mainly the Rock Island. I use the CTA, the L's, and now the Pace buses. My main concern is one out of every 5 or 6 rides on the Pace bus is free for me because the card readers aren't working. And if this is, mainly in the south suburbs, but if this is a system-wide issue, that's a few, many millions of dollars being lost in revenue. And I've seen bus drivers are so frustrated they'll put a black garbage bag over the card reader, just to let if they don't, you're looking and oh yeah, it doesn't work. So I just wondered if this is a problem that people are aware of, and is there anything being done to correct it? Because I want to pay. Thanks.
Thank you, Dennis. Leanne and to the staff, let's make sure we follow up with Pace. And I would like to know, how frequently Pace believes this happens. But Dennis, we will pass on your concerns, and I'm like you. I don't mind paying for my ride. So thanks for bringing this to our attention.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, it's I know funding is a big issue, and you hate to leave money just sitting on the table.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for your comment. I'm next going to just make sure, Justin, I see a comment in the chat. If you'd like to make a comment, this will be recorded, but if you'd like to make a comment verbally, you're welcome to unmute and make a comment.
I guess I just think it's very important to invest in automation for the trains that will be able to improve reliability of service and also be able to increase frequency. A common problem in Chicago is that often often like during holidays and other large events, you'll just see major reductions in the transit service because a lot of the drivers and stuff will just call off because they don't want to work on the holiday. And then on those crucial days when lots of people are riding the service, then suddenly we're often seeing a lot of reduced numbers. And being able to invest in train automation should really be able to help out with that and hopefully be able to give us the proper, reliable service that we want to be able to have.
Thank you for your comment. I see. I'm noting Steve DeRose. You put another comment in the chat, but you do not like make a comment at this time. If you do, just let us know. Raise your hand or note in the chat. Okay, go ahead, Steve. You can unmute, make a comment.
Saying that somebody who's wrote on the system for much of the last, well, much of the decade. It's nice to see some movement going that PACE is extending the hours for several of its routes beyond 7 o'clock. As I've said numerous times that there's still many places you can visit on PACE buses, but you wouldn't be able to get back from there after a certain hours. And so it's nice to see this finally occurring, which like the 290 and things like that. So, and I hope now with the funding, more routes can get extended hours of service.
Thanks for that comment. Next, I have John Stavanovich. If you'd like to make a comment, go ahead and unmute.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to speak more on the state of good repair in relation to slow zones. This is for Metra and CTA in particular. Just looking at the slow zone map CTA publishes. I think they mentioned they work on improving, slow zones, reducing them. But I think just the speed in which trains operate versus what they should be and kind of what they're limited to is something that I don't think this metric's really is held to a certain standard across these transit agencies. And I know these slow zones increase over time, decrease, but I don't think there's like a set standard that there is to be achieved to ensure proper service, especially for the O'Hare branch at 12% slow zone. It's a very big tourist related branch that, that's when tourists really take in CTA for the first time coming from the airport. And especially with one plan to extend 24-hour service for Midway and the Orange Line, like those are the first impressions that a lot of people coming into the city will get a first take on how our transportation system is. And then if they end up going on some of these other slow zones areas where, 80%, 25% slow zone, at what point are we saying this percentage is unacceptable? Because people are, trying to get to work, but a train's going at 15 miles per hour. And I know these trains can peak 70 miles per hour, but they've never really been able to for whatever reason. But I know, speed is definitely a important factor that increases people to want to take the service. And I think that, and then prioritizing more bus dedicated lanes throughout the city requires a lot of collaboration. But I think when you improve speed and service, that'll really help alleviate any issues in terms of complaints, safety issues, and also just better maintenance. If a bus can go, 20 miles per hour versus stop and go at 2 miles per hour. Same for the train. So there's my thoughts on that. Appreciate taking the time for my comment.
John, thank you. It's Chairman Dillard. We're all over this, including we're on the bus wrap It's called BRT. We have the fewest bus rapid transit lanes of any major city in America. That's going to improve. The RTA spoke up pretty loudly a year ago, and on some work on the Chicago Avenue bridge over the Kennedy Expressway. So we understand the speed thing, including the fact that we have some federal grants that allow bus drivers to keep the green light on just a little bit longer, so they make it through intersections. But we're all over increasing the bus rapid transit lines, and we understand that speed makes more people get on, that they want to get to wherever they're going as quickly as possible. So we're all over it. The increased funding should help. It should certainly help on the technology side of making things run quicker. And in slow zones, I can tell you that the CTA is all over the slow zone issue. They're making some great improvements on the blue line. So your comments are well taken. And then last but not least, in the new legislation, the new board will set pretty hard service standards to make sure that things are followed through on. So there is something called service standards that's set in the new legislation, but you're absolutely on point. And I know that the CTA, Metra, and PACE get it. And the extra funding that's coming in, both on the infrastructure side as well as operations, is going to help speed up all our rides. So thank you so much. You're absolutely dead on, John. Thanks.
Thank you. And I just want to say one last point. MBTA in Boston, they had a huge overhaul improvement, I think, on their green or silver line, and they eliminated every slow zone on a whole branch. And to think that if Boston can do that, I know we can do it, and that'd be very impressive to do. And I think it's achievable. And I could just imagine how much those customers appreciate that in Boston, to have zero slow zones from end to end, and probably entice more people to do that, hit every train station in the shortest amount of time. Guinness World Record on CTA. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but
I saw that. There's one recently. It's amazing. I've been to most stations, haven't been to them all, but it never ceases to amaze me. And when I read that, I go, "Wow, I wish I could do that. That's pretty cool." Thanks, John. Happy holidays.
Thanks for your comment. I see that yeah, okay. The next person in the chat is Dimitra Karas. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing your name. If you'd like to make a comment, you're welcome to unmute and make a comment.
Yes, thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Dimitra Karas. I work at a place called Progress Center. We are a CIL, Center for Independent Living. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a non-residential, nonprofit organization that advocates for and with people with disabilities. I know several at RTA are familiar with us and what we do. Again, I appreciate these several opportunities over the last couple of months to make comment and talk about our concerns, what's important to us. We've been talking about lately about RAP and TAP. Again, for those who don't know, RAP, the Uber and Accessible Taxi Program, before October 1st, allowed over 200 rides per month. That was cut down to 30 rides per month. And what we would like is some of those rides, the number of those rides, to be restored. Of course, we would like as many as possible. And I would just ask that our community and our concerns be not forgotten, because oftentimes people with disabilities are forgotten. So I would just like to, again, just share with people that we're here, that we're listening, and we'd like to be heard. And again, I appreciate this opportunity. The RAP and TAP programs, when they started, they really changed people's lives. There are issues with public transit, inaccessibility. I know a lot of those things are worked on, whether it's bus stops or service of paratransit. Wrap and tap is a great alternative for many people. And just as it changed lives when it came in, October 1st with that reduction, it changed lives again. And we would love to see more of those rides per month be restored.
Thank you so much for your comment.
Thank you.
Justin Strange or Stange, sorry again, I'm sure I'm not pronouncing that correctly. Would you like to, if you'd like to unmute and make a comment, you can at this time. Otherwise, your comment in the chat will be recorded.
Yeah. Last name's pronounced Stengy, but yeah, that's commonly
Apologies.
mispronounced. That's a fine. But yeah, just bus lanes, of course, are great, but often just you see lots of people just end up parking in the bus lanes, which then ends up just removing all the functionality from the bus lanes. So if you can have some sort of actual way of enforcing it, whether it may be just through like police cars or just ideally having like cameras on the buses themselves, which can read the license plates of vehicles which may be parking in the bus lanes to be able to really ensure that people will not be parking in the bus lanes. So the buses can actually run in them and the bus lanes can actually serve their purpose. And I guess also one additional thing I'll add to this, also, I don't know if you're able to implement any sort of traffic signal priorities into some of the more rapid bus corridors. That would also be a very good way of speeding up bus service.
Thanks so much for that comment.
Kristen, thank you. We are doing and have a federal grant, but we're clearly doing the signal prioritization. And Tina, correct me if I'm wrong, or Leanne, but I believe that the CTA now has cameras on some buses with respect to making sure nobody parks in a bus lane. I think
That's
that's
correct.
new technology recently within the last few months.
All right, I'm not seeing any new names in the chat. So if you don't want to put your name on the chat, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you to unmute. Otherwise, I just want to remind everyone that this hearing is going to stay open until 6 p.m. and recording will continue. We'd ask all current attendees who want to remain until the end to stay muted, but aside from RTA staff who are needed for this meeting, attendees are welcome to leave at any time. We are all going to remain here just to see if any latecomers arrive. So thanks again to everyone who has made comments, and if something comes up and you would like to make another comment, please just raise your hand or signify that in the chat. Hi, Greg. If you would like to make a comment, you can go ahead and unmute and make a comment.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for taking my question. I saw the PACE revision project and initiative was mentioned in the budget, and I was just curious, just kind of like where that project is. I went to one of the open houses last year for that, and I see it's in there. I'm just curious, like, is it how much that's reflected in this budget, or if the implementation is maybe still, a bit further down the road?
Thanks for your comment, Greg. In general, at the hearing, we just accept comments. If someone on the RTA staff wants to speak to that, I of course will let them. But in general, we just record comments at the hearing. But we will pass that question on.
Great, thank you.
Hi, Greg. This is Joe Leary, Chief of Staff at the RTA. The simplest answer is it's not reflected in the 2026 budget, but it's still kind of underway. So be on the lookout for more information from PACE and the RTA, I would say, in the beginning of the new year, so we can start making improvements to that with the new funding.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hi, Jesus. If you'd like to unmute and make a comment, go ahead.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So my name is Jesus Lakisira, City of Waukegan resident and former city engineer for Waukegan. I just have a comment about bus shelters in the city and throughout PACE. I'm hoping there is some increased funding and mechanism around the bus shelters for maintenance, especially given our current weather. Right? It's important that all these shelters are shoveled out, work with municipalities to ensure that the riders have a good experience when standing at the bus stops and bus pads. That's one comment. The other comment is that I'm hoping there's some streamlined options in this budget for municipalities that can take advantage of advancing some of the bus shelters installation. Just recently, yesterday, I saw in the very cold weather, it was about 7 p.m. A lot of high school kids just standing out in the middle, in the bus stop. There's no bus shelter. I know I understand there's some more engineering items that go along with it, such as sight distances and all that. But maybe the RTA can consider other options on how to get shelters out to these municipalities, because oftentimes I do see not just students but families standing in an area uncovered. Thank you.
Very much appreciate your comments. Thank you. Just want to note that a phone-in line was just added. If that attendee would like to make a comment, they're welcome to unmute and make a comment. Otherwise, welcome.
Hello?
Hi,
Hello?
welcome. Hi, welcome. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Jacob Aronov is my name. Sorry I got in late. I had technical difficulties with the Zoom system. I got the passcode wrong. Anyway, yeah, I'm calling. Jacob Aronov is my name. Visually impaired. I'm living in a place called Friedman Place. I should tell you my address. It's this is my address here. 55. What is the address here? Hold on a minute.
You don't need to supply.
5529. What? Say again.
You don't need to supply an address if you don't want to. You can just make a comment.
Oh, okay. All right. But anyway, I'm living at, it's basically an assisted living facility for people who are blind or visually impaired. I have more vision than a lot of people here. But anyway, most people here rely heavily on paratransit or the TAP program or the or the ZAP, what's it called, the ZAP program, and we need that to be those programs to be fully funded, and paratransit needs to be. Paratransit, we have problems with reliability and also sometimes problems in that, it need to be able to access it on a more, how shall I say, short-term basis. Is that the word for it? The rule is you have to call and make an appointment the day before. Also, I've had problems with it in terms of just the zone system, in the sense that there's a city zone and a suburban zone, and there's a long wait over between one and the other. I've had that problem going up to a doctor up in Winnetka, where they transfer me at the Linden station, and I have to wait for another vehicle. It's really not cost effective either, because then it takes you to I pay one fare, but but you end up paying two drivers for the same trip. So sorry I missed the overview. Are there any changes in RTA protocol this year?
Thanks for your comment. we gave a general overview of the budget and also a summary of new legislation. So there was a lot of information. This recording will be posted on our website very quickly, probably first thing tomorrow morning. So you can view it there to see what you've missed.
Yeah, I'm not able to do that. Could you send me the information in writing?
Certainly, can you provide your email address?
Oh, well, yeah, it's TONEZAP@yahoo.com. You don't send anything out over the mail?
We can. You have to provide
Okay.
but I should say that the budget is quite large. So it would be a
Okay.
really big package. But we're happy to
That's
email
okay.
you a PDF, or you can listen to the recording as well.
Okay. But who am I speaking to?
My name is Tina Bassett Smith. I'm the Director of Communications at the RTA.
Oh, give me a phone number and I'll call you tomorrow. I don't want to give it out right now over the Zoom, but hold on. Hold on a second. Okay. I've had problems getting a hold of people there. RTA. What is your name?
My name is Tina Smith.
Tina. What's the last name?
Smith.
Oh, Tina Smith. Okay. And what's your extension there?
My work phone number is 312-913-3256.
913 what? What?
3256.
Yeah. 3256. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'll call there.
Okay.
Give you
Thank you for
my
your comment.
address. Yeah. How many people have spoken so far?
I'm about 10.
Okay. All right.
Thanks so much.
Yeah.
I just want to note that there is a comment in the chat from Fred Bonner. If you'd like to unmute and make a comment, you can. Otherwise, your comment in the chat will be recorded.
Good afternoon, Tina.
Hi there. Good afternoon.
Okay, the Metro North line going up toward Waukegan has hourly service now, and in portion of it there's half-hour service. So it's really convenient for everybody there, and I'm certain it's driving up ridership from that convenience. But I live along I'm in Vernon Hills, along the North Central line. That was built in the 90s, and huge parking lots are at every one of the stations. The stations are pretty convenient. There's pace buses that go by those. But when you look at the train schedule, it really hurts. If you do go downtown, you're worried that you have to watch very carefully or you may not get back and, be forced to go, say, on the Milwaukee North line and then somehow manage to get back to your station. So I'm hoping that Metro can maybe look at the schedule, and I know the Canadian National Railway isn't interested in any more trains running on that track, but maybe their arm could be twisted a little bit. But I think if a few trains could be added, there would be many people who would then return back to the service. And hopefully with the new funding that maybe the North Central can rise again and a couple of more cars can be in those parking lots along the line. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that comment. Since it's 5:30, I just want to do a quick reminder that this hearing stays open until 6 o'clock and recording continues. Any current attendees who don't need to be here are welcome to go, but we will keep recording until 6. And if anyone wants to make a comment, they can put something in the chat or raise their hand. Thanks.
This is Brian. Just want to say thank you all. Appreciate it. Have a good
Thanks,
evening.
Thanks, Director Sauger, you as well.
Bye,
So
Doctor.
it is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
It is 5:59. So I want to just say before we close, there's a couple more comments were put in the chat. Thank you for those. We will save those. And that concludes our meeting. Thanks so much to the directors, the staff, for attending, and to all of the commenters. We will post this recording and make these public comments available to the public with the final version of the plan and before our next meeting on December 18th. I think that is all, and we can go ahead and stop the recording and stop the meeting. Thanks again, everybody. Good night.